So, Dave, what's the first thing you think of when I say Warlock?
Eldritch Blast. But I think you're talking about today's topic, Warlock patrons.
I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
And I'm Nerdarchy Dave. Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds.
Now let's nerd out about Warlocks.
So the Warlock class already gets a ton of coverage when it comes to patrons. You know, we've got 8 of them to be exact so far. But the question is, do we need more?
So we already have the Archfey, the Celestial, the Fathomless, the Fiend, the Genie, the Great Old One, the Hexblade, and the Undying. So we ask, what's missing?
So a little while ago, we did an article over on our website that's kind of inspiration for this video, and that's the top 10 5e D&D Warlock otherworldly patrons by a factor of 3. And those 3 factors are highest rating, most viewed, and most added. Now, we are going to be looking at D&D Beyond in order to kind of get those lists of the most. And these are things that people have homebrewed over on D&D Beyond. And it's only fair to mention that D&D Beyond is our sponsor for this video. And you know what? You're going to be able to click the link and go over to D&D Beyond and see what those homebrews are and see, if you agree with them, disagree with them. Maybe you'll want to add some of your own.
So with that, let's actually get into our list and talk about all of the fun things that, we think about these, and we'll highlight one of them in particular.
All right, so we've got the Ancient Dragon patron, the Odd Howard, Aboleth, Kraken, Dungeon Master, the Raven Queen, the Elemental, the Otherworldly patron, the Parasite, the Future, and the Phoenix.
So, there's definitely a lot of bizarre and fun things here. Raven Queen definitely already has a bit of tie-in to the rest of the world. Kraken, Aboleth, Phoenix, elementals, dragons, these are all things that are definitely seeded without the fantasy world. And there's nothing to say that having an advanced version, one that's actually achieved so much power that it's gotten to the point of like demigod or powerful enough to be a unique being and enough to create its own warlock packs. That's one of the things that I think is a staple of Dungeons and Dragons.
Now, some of these I feel like could really be used. Some of them are goofy, and then some of them really can just kind of be folded into what we already have. Like the Aboleth and the Kraken, I feel like those already kind of they kind of get covered already. Like that could be the Great Old One. It could be the Phantomless. Now, another area is the Elemental. That could kind of be covered by the Genie, but you also might want more of one of the primordial elemental lords as your patron instead of a genie.
So this is where homebrew things like this really come in and allow you to, rather than saying, hey, Dungeon Master, can I tweak, can I make some changes to what's here, can we work together and make these changes so that it's more fitting for the narration, the story I want to tell, and the mechanics that I might happen to be looking for as a player.
So now the other question is, we mentioned we're gonna like pull one of these and take a look at it. Which one do you want to look at, Ted?
All right, I love things that add a layer of hilarity into the game. One of the things that I've always enjoyed hanging out with friends is when we all make each other laugh. It's why I like puns. It's why I like jokes. It's just who I am. So to me, looking at this list, while there's a couple that fall into that, nothing is more funny than sitting there having a conversation with your DM. It's like, okay, what are you going to play? Oh, I'm going to play a Warlock. Cool. Who's your patron? You? What? So being able to have the patron be the Dungeon Master, the person sitting behind the screen, you could totally go Deadpool style of the character breaking the fourth wall, looking from the battle map or, the adventure to the Dungeon Master, calling out, oh, Dave, I implore you, please be kind to me today, please blah, 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 and have so much fun with it. You could possibly pull out, elements of like, oh, I wish to learn about this creature, and literally pull in real world facts about the Dungeon Master that you've encountered with, Arcana checks and what have you. It's just hysterical. I think you could have so much fun with it. So this is the one that I want to talk about.
So this is the one you want to talk about. But before we do, based off of the list that we just kind of rambled off, folks, what do you think? Are any of these ones that you feel are definitely missing? Like, to me, the Elemental Dragon and Phoenix all are standouts. Leave a comment down below. Tell us which ones you're looking for and you want to see.
While you're at it, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all of that stuff.
And of course, remember, we drop new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So, come back to the channel, check it out. And like Ted said, don't forget to appease the algorithm that is YouTube. So, Ted, let's jump into the Dungeon Master as a patron.
All right, so first off, you get patron support. Given your patrons constant presence, they can gift you with extra spell slots. The DM can grant you a number of bonus Warlock spell slots equal to 1/4 of your Warlock level, minimum 1 per short rest. The DM may award these for good role-playing, advancing the plot, self-sacrifice, an epic finishing move, or because it was Tuesday. Seriously, the DM is your patron. Whatever they want to do, whatever they want is what you do.
Yeah, so that ability is pretty strong and very arbitrary, to say the least. And also, we were going to say, like, a lot of these things we talk about might not be the most play tested.
So my weird thing about this one is it does not fit the particular vernacular of 5th edition. It doesn't say you gain a. It says it can. And anytime you get into these, weird possibilities and maybes with hard written mechanics, it definitely leaves things open for interpretation. And when the dungeon master is concerned, it's like, well, you know what if you pissed me off today and I don't want to do this? That robs a character of potential mechanics that are built into their character. So like I said, I love the theme. I would tweak that to you're gaining extra spell slots, and I would just have it, remove all of the possibles.
Yeah, it's arbitrary and, meant to be, because it's the whim of the Dungeon Master. So next up, we're looking at you drop these. Starting at first level, your ability to perceive beyond the world map has given you the ability to bolster yours and your allies' endurance. At the end of the short rest, you can restore all your used hit dice of one party member. If this not all of their hit dice, if this is not all their hit dice, you can restore a number of your used hit dice equal to the unused hit dice. So again, this is just an ability you can do on a short rest to give back hit dice, and you can get some hit dice. And when you're tapping into cosmic power.
Absolutely. Cosmic power is definitely fun here. The thing that I like about this is the Warlock is driven by the short rest mechanic. Not all other characters, not all other, classes are. So being able to diminish, the resource expenditure of your healers by saying, oh, well, I'm going to take a short rest and I'm going to do this, and restore hit dice to another character in the party, that means the other characters are benefiting more from short rests. Like, okay, the fighter used all his hit dice, got back all of his hit points. I can restore his hit dice at the end of that rest so that we can be able to do it again, not wasting the cleric's healing magic. So if you're taking lots of short rests, I can see this coming up again and again and becoming very useful as a party aid.
Yeah, it's actually a decent ability. You can only affect one character at a time. It might need some other restrictions to it, but other than that, and also, let's face it, you drop these as a hilarious name.
Absolutely. So 6th level, which one do we use again? 6th level, you learn to warp reality and bend fate by change dice. Once per long rest, you may choose one single purpose that dice is used for by anyone at the table and replace it with any of the following: D20, D12, D10, D8, D6, or D4. The purposes you can select are to hit, to save, damage for a specific weapon, ability checks. This effect applies to one creature at a time. They must attempt a save against your Warlock spell save DC. On a successful save, you can only move the dice size by 1, replace a D20 with a D12, or replace a D4 with a D6. If they fail their save, you may replace things any way you choose. A creature can choose to willingly fail this save. If your patron, the DM, allows it, the effect lasts for 1 minute. So this is another one of those very weird, very wacky abilities, and is definitely useful to swing up or swing down. Helping out your allies or really, hurting your enemies. You really want that dude to fail his saving throw? Replace that D20 with a D4. Yeah, good luck making that check, buddy.
Yeah. So there's a couple things with this. One, the effect lasting a minute is a bit much, and two, like it really should be something that's tied maybe to an action, like you have to use your reaction, or you can only use this so many times a day, and then it's not tied to an action. So there's some areas where you could do it where it's not so game breaking. I actually like the gist of this mechanic. It's fun and interesting. Hasn't been seen in the game. With the right retooling, I think this one actually could work fairly well.
I think limited use, maybe tied to your charisma modifier, tied to, if you want to enter into the more hilarity, like you have to compliment your patron,
Yeah.
In a new way, one that you have not used, this day or this session, add in the actual hilarity of the concept into the mechanics, I think might be something that would really step this up. Now, perhaps it's built into the concept that you're probably going to be doing that anyway, but I think having that tied into the mechanics only builds upon, that's there. But lasting a minute, I'm sorry, changing a die down a type for all attacks or saves, I would have to say that to save would have to be like a specific saving throw, maybe. Just
no, not even. Like, I'm going to say something I don't say too often. It is completely game breaking. Like you've completely shut down that creature in a particular way when you do that. I mean, obviously you want to use this for the big bad's attack rolls or their saving throws, and you want to drop it down to a die 4, and they're just screwed. They can like pretty much never make those checks.
Right. Well, what I was saying is like, all right, if they pass their save, which, Big Bad's probably going to have a legendary resistance saved up for this. I mean, after all, the DM has been running this game for a while, and they know what cards you have access to. So, all right, I passed the save, so my attack or saves is going to drop down to a D12. I think the overarching category of a saving throw die is too broad for this. Would have to be like, all right, this would apply to con saves or to dex saves, and that would allow, like, unless your entire party is built on we all attack dex, this would give some leeway to that particular creature. But you know what? If combat is not the mainstay of the game and you're looking more for the other things, then maybe it's not so bad. So you have to definitely look at all aspects of the particular game. But I would definitely enjoy using this to kind of help out my party. You know what, Barbarian, you've got Savage Attacker and you've been swinging that D12 axe for a while. Well, you know what? Bam! You're now swinging a D20 weapon.
Yeah, this one's fine with a little retooling. It actually does work. So we have Let Me See. Starting at 10th level, your thoughts transcend this plane and you see unto higher planes. You can see what your patron sees, the DM's guide. You can ask the DM to see the stat block of a creature in your line of sight the first time this occurs after a long rest. The DM will set a 60-second timer. You have not handed the book back to the DM and declared what you will be doing before this happens. The creature you just examined has noticed you and has advantage on attacks to hit you for the next minute. If you are in combat with the creature and you do this, then you can also see its current hit points and the status of its expendable abilities, spells, breath weapons, legendary actions, or resistance, etc. You know this stuff. If the time runs out on you, you have spent your entire turn doing this. If not, this does not cost you any action or free action. The 60-second timer does not reset until you complete a long rest.
Wow. Number one,
we've used this in our game, like in essence, for certain things.
Yes, I mean there are abilities that already already allow you to ascertain abilities. The battle master can get information. The monk can get information. Using extract aspects, which we've seen on Critical Role.
Even like one or two of the rogues might do it as well, right?
So, like, there's definitely abilities to gather all of that stuff. Now, my only problem with this ability is the way Dave and I particularly run our games. We don't always have a complete stat block in front of us. We might be mashing things together. So
On
it
the
would
fly.
on the fly. So it might
Yeah.
take, more time than the Warlock actually has. Like, all right, well, you want to turn to page 17 of this book to get this thing, or you want to look at, page 92 of that book to get this aspect. But I'm doing all of this, and by the way, all of those numbers bump up by 1 because it's a lower level thing. Like, oh my word, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I would definitely have to, be playing more with things. But then again, who knows? But I love the concept. It's not game breaking. You definitely have to have, the timer ready to play with all of these things. So it sounds like literally only the quick glance at the information, is your thing, that you can do it as often as you want. But as soon as that timer runs out, it's like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, so far, so good. What do we rounding this one out with?
All right, so at 14th level, I'll do that too, which I love this ability. At 14th level, you gain the ability to copy the racial or class ability of any of your party members. This takes effect at the end of a long rest and lasts until you begin another long rest. If you copy a cleric, paladin, or druid subclass spell list, you have access to those specific spells, but are limited to your warlock spell slots. If you copy another class's spellcasting feature, it scales to your level, but you only have access to your warlock spells, which you will cast with the spellcasting modifier, the new spellcasting modifier. If you copy a skill which references a skill, ability, or spell you do not already have, you do not gain that skill, ability, or spell. The DM can tell you not to use any ability you wish to copy because he is your patron. So definitely some limitations of like, no, you can't have that. I said so. Totally applies when it's literally the DM who is your patron.
I am just not sure about this ability at all, Ted. I just feel like, well, one, the limiting factor for warlocks is they get a lot less spell slots, and like now it's like, oh, I'm going to copy your feature, so now I get to use all my spells a lot. Now the difference might be, what level are the spells that you know? Do you have spell slots for that? I mean, more than likely, you probably have some to cover them here and there, but it would give you a lot more casting as a warlock. It just might ratchet down, what level those spells are that you are casting.
So that is the caveat. Number one, if the warlock copies the wizard spell casting ability, all right, you're going to get access to the spell slots based on your level. You're using intelligence instead of charisma. So there's definitely going to be some caveats there. You don't get any of the wizard spells. You could really get messed up here of like, okay, where's your spell book? I don't have them. Okay, now what? How do you play that? So this could definitely
Well,
have.
I don't think that would apply just because when you get the feature, you're still casting your own spells.
All right, that's true. You get access to the spell slots. So that and the warlock spells. That's true. I was not adding two and two together properly. So the real trick is like, okay, you would have to look at the finer mechanics. It specifically says, if I'm correct, your warlock spell slots reset on a short rest to kind of bridge the gap. So you still have those for the day. So you aren't getting all of them back every time you short rest because they're not warlock spell slots. So you get this extra feature that you can play with, and you do have to play around with it. You do have to see what limitations you can have. And as the GM or as the dungeon master, like, you literally be like, nah, I don't want you playing with that feature. But like, okay, you'd be able to change day to day based on the situation you're going into. So I could borrow this and I can borrow that. But it has to be from someone in your party. So depending upon what the makeup of that party is going to determine what you have access to begin with. So There's definitely lots of limitations that are not specifically written there. So like that might not be obvious to everybody. But all in all, I'm not I like this ability. I don't have as much problem with it as Dave.
Yeah, I just wonder how it's going to interact with the cleric, paladin, druid subclass spell list as well. Like, is it the whole entire thing? Obviously, this is homebrew, so they can be kind of goofy and all over the place. And we picked the silliest one of the lot for the Warlock just because we thought it was funny. But, you know, there's other ones on here. And also you can look at the original article over on Nerdarchy where there's the list of, 3 different ways that, the top 10 is picked. And also, they might be different now because the article was written a little bit ago. Heck, when you go and look at the ones we read off, that list might be different just because, the rating could possibly change.
Indeed.
Hey, if you enjoyed this video and you want another top 10 list, check out Top 10 Weirdest D&D Monsters.
If you're in the market for a new Warlock pact, consider patronizing us in a good way over on Patreon.
By pledging, you'll help us to keep creating content as well as receive rewards like 5e content for players and DMs alike, a chance to game with Nerdarchy, and more.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.